Hi folks, and welcome back to another pub quiz challenge. The challenge this week is to beat my score, and unfortunately it was a paltry 56, so it's an easy target to beat. Let's have a look at what's in store. Today's quiz is over 6 rounds and features 75 questions. It's 1 point for each correct answer, and a score of over 40 is good. But a score of over 60, that's excellent. Round 1 is your quickfire trivia round. 10 open questions. Good luck. Let's crack on with the quiz. Question 1. Game Pass is a subscription service for which popular games console? And that would be Xbox. Question 2. Nobody puts baby in a corner is a famous line from which 80s movie? It is from Dirty Dancing. Question 3. What is a baby kangaroo called? It is called a joey. Question 4. What is the capital city of Bulgaria? The correct answer is Sofia. Question 5. How many legs in total would 3 spiders have? They would have 24 legs. Question 6. In which Brothers Grimm fairy tale does a girl spin straw into gold? That would be Rumpelstiltskin. Question 7. Who is the most decorated Olympian of all time? That is Michael Phelps. Question 8. What is the Australian equivalent of Marmite called? That is Vegemite. Question 9. Which Scottish poet wrote the song Auld Lang Syne? The correct answer here is Robert Burns. And question 10. Sitting on the Dock of the Bay became a worldwide hit after the death of which soul singer? And that was Otis Redding. Last week we looked at Europe. This week, round 2 is on the continent of North America. Question 11. In what year did the original 4 provinces unite to form the Canadian Confederation? Was that 1867, 1871 or 1905? It was in 1867. On July the 1st, 1867, Ontario, Quebec, New Brunswick and Nova Scotia united to form the Dominion of Canada. This date is now celebrated annually as Canada Day. Question 12. What Mexican dish consists of a tortilla filled with cheese and then grilled or fried? That would be a quesadilla. Question 13. What is the call sign of the US President's aeroplane? Is it Air Force One, Marine One, or Eagle One? It is Air Force One. Question 14. Which US TV show that ran from 2009 to 2015 had 207 songs break into the Billboard Hot 100? That was the show Glee. The hit TV show scored 207 Billboard Hot 100 entries and sold over 36 million singles and 11 million albums, generating more than $500 million in music revenue alone. Question 15. Which Mexican artist is famous for self-portraits and has a distinctive unibrow? That would be Frida Kahlo. Question 16. Which Caribbean nation was the first to gain independence from colonial rule in 1804? Was that the Dominican Republic, Haiti, or Jamaica? The correct answer was Haiti. Haiti declared independence from France on January 1st, 1804, following a successful slave revolt, becoming the first post-slavery republic in the world. Question 17. How many amendments of the US Constitution are covered in the Bill of Rights? Would that be 5, 10, or 15? And the correct answer is 10. Question 18. In what year was the Star-Spangled Banner adopted as the official US national anthem? Was that in 1916, 1925, or 1931? It was in 1931. Although written during the War of 1812 by Francis Scott Key, the song wasn't officially adopted as the US national anthem until March 3rd, 1931, by President Herbert Hoover. Question 19. What is the longest river in Canada? That is the Mackenzie River. Question 20. Who was the first US president to live in the White House? Was that George Washington, John Adams, or Thomas Jefferson? And the correct answer is John Adams. Although George Washington oversaw most of the White House construction from 1792, it was John Adams who first moved into the still unfurnished building in 1800, near the end of his presidency. Next up, it's Guess the Year, and it is a music round. I'll give you 10 facts, just guess the year. Just to make it a little bit easier, I've gave you plus or minus 1 year either way. Now heads up, I had an absolute shocker on this round, so hopefully you can do better than me. Let's go. Question 21. Thriller by Michael Jackson was released, the best-selling album of all time. That was in 1982. Question 22. Nirvana released their iconic album Nevermind, featuring Smells Like Teen Spirit. That was in 1991. Question 23. Beyoncé released single Ladies Put a Ring on It. That was released in 2008. Question 24. Elvis Presley died at Graceland in Memphis, aged just 42. That was in 1977. After his death, Elvis was buried in a public cemetery alongside his mother, but after a failed grave robbing attempt, he and his mother were moved to Graceland. Question 25. Lady Gaga wore her famous meat dress at the MTV Video Music Awards. That happened in 2010. Question 26. The Beatles released their first UK single, Love Me Do. That was back in 1962. Question 27. Whitney Houston's I Will Always Love You from the Bodyguard soundtrack topped the charts worldwide. That was the year 1992. I Will Always Love You was written and recorded by Dolly Parton and even topped the US country charts in 1973. She later joked she made enough money from Whitney's version to buy Graceland. Question 28. Oasis released What's the Story Morning Glory featuring Wonderwall and Don't Look Back in Anger. That was released in 1995. Question 29. Adele won the Grammy Award for Album of the Year for 21. She won the Grammy in 2012. And question 30. Gangnam Style by Psy became the first YouTube video to reach 1 billion views. That also happened in 2012. Gangnam Style wasn't just a silly dance, it satirised Seoul's wealthy Gangnam district, became the first Korean language song to hit the US Billboard Top 10 and helped pave the way for future K-pop acts. Next up, it is the picture round, and this week it's famous faces from the 20th century. Question 31. Can you name this Italian-born actress? That is Sophia Loren. Question 32. Can you name this South African-born British author? That is J.R.R. Tolkien. Tolkien was born in Bloemfontein, South Africa, before moving to the UK as a child. He later typed the entire Lord of the Rings trilogy on a manual typewriter using just 2 fingers. Question 33. Can you name this Brazilian F1 racing driver? That is Ayrton Senna. Question 34. Can you name this Swedish actress? That is Ingrid Bergman. Question 35. Can you name this Russian politician and former president? He is Boris Yeltsin. Question 36. Can you name this American actor? That is Gene Hackman. Question 37. Can you name this Australian actor? That is Errol Flynn. Born in Tasmania in 1909, Flynn was known for his swashbuckling Hollywood roles, but before making it in film, he tried gold mining, tobacco farming, and even treasure hunting in Papua New Guinea. Question 38. Can you name this Greek singer? Her name is Nana Mouskouri. Question 39. Can you name this New Zealand rugby legend? That is Jonah Lomu. And quiz question 40. Can you name this Canadian singer-songwriter? That is Joni Mitchell. Round 5 this week is all about the year 2015. Question 41. Dieselgate was a 2015 scandal involving which automobile manufacturer caught cheating emissions tests? That was sparked by Volkswagen. Question 42. Which British singer released the album 25 in 2015, featuring the hit single Hello? Was that Adele, Sam Smith or Ed Sheeran? That was Adele. Question 43. In 2015, which country became the first in the world to legalise same-sex marriage by public referendum? The correct answer here was Ireland. In May 2015, 62% of Irish voters backed same-sex marriage in a national referendum, making Ireland the first country in the world to do so by public vote. Question 44. Who became Canada's Prime Minister in 2015? That was Justin Trudeau. Question 45. Which country hosted the 2015 Rugby World Cup? It was hosted by England. Question 46. Who, in 2015, became the first driver in history to win 10 or more Formula 1 races in consecutive seasons? Was that Lewis Hamilton, Nico Rosberg or Sebastian Vettel? It was Lewis Hamilton. Question 47. In 2015, NASA announced evidence of the presence of seasonally flowing briny liquid water on which planet? Was that Jupiter, Neptune or Mars? It was Mars. NASA spotted dark streaks called recurrent slope linea, thought to be salty water flows. Later studies have suggested dry sand, but the find sparked huge excitement about life on Mars at the time. Question 48. Which online marketplace for handmade and vintage items went public on the New York Stock Exchange in 2015? That was Etsy. Question 49. Which film starring Michael Keaton won the Academy Award for Best Picture in 2015? Was that Birdman, Spotlight, or The Revenant? It was Birdman. And question 50. Which actor, famous for playing Spock in Star Trek, sadly died in 2015? That was Leonard Nimoy. Nimoy played Spock for nearly 50 years. His farewell tweet, "A life is like a garden. Perfect moments can be had, but not preserved, except in memory, LLAP, which means live long and prosper." It's that point in the video where I always ask a favour. If you made it this far in the quiz and you're enjoying the quiz, give the video a thumbs up. It's the best way you can support my channel and any other small channels that you enjoy. In fact, if you manage to beat my score of 56, give yourself a thumbs up and the video a like. Now, if you're new to the channel and you want to subscribe for more content, I've made it really easy for you. Just scan the QR code with your phone and it will take you straight to the subscribe button. Right, back to the quiz. As always, round 6 is your general knowledge round. 25 mixed format questions coming up. Question 51. Pearson International Airport serves which Canadian city? Is that Montreal, Toronto, or Vancouver? It serves the city of Toronto. Toronto Pearson is Canada's largest and busiest airport, named after Lester B. Pearson, former Prime Minister and Nobel Peace Prize laureate. Question 52. Which actor played the title role in the Night at the Museum films? That was Ben Stiller. Question 53. What is the only US state that grows and sells coffee commercially? Would that be California, Florida, or Hawaii? The correct answer is Hawaii. Hawaiian coffee, especially Kona, is world famous thanks to the island's tropical climate and volcanic soil. Authentic Kona beans are among the most expensive coffee beans in the world, sometimes over $30 per pound. Question 54. What street in London was synonymous during the 20th century with journalism and newspapers? That was Fleet Street. Question 55. The country of Bulgaria sits on the shores of which sea? Would that be the Adriatic, the Aegean, or the Black Sea? It sits on the shores of the Black Sea. Question 56. Which US city is nicknamed the Big Easy? That is New Orleans. Question 57. In which country would you find Tongariro National Park? Is it in Australia, New Zealand, or South Africa? You would find it in New Zealand. The park has dual UNESCO World Heritage status, both for its volcanic landscape and Maori cultural significance. Lord of the Rings was filmed here, with Mount Narahau featuring as Mount Doom. Question 58. In Morse code, which single letter is represented by 3 dots? That would be the letter S. Question 59. In what decade were shopping barcodes first introduced at supermarket checkouts? That was in the 1970s. The first product scanned with a barcode was a pack of Wrigley's chewing gum in Ohio in 1974, marking the start of modern checkout systems. Question 60. In which sport would international teams compete for the Davis Cup trophy? Is that in golf, rugby or tennis? The correct answer is tennis. Question 61. Which 19th century Spanish artist painted Saturn devouring his sun? That was painted by Francisco Goya. Question 62. In what country did Alexander Graham Bell file his patent for the telephone in 1876? Was that Canada, United Kingdom or the United States? He filed it in the US. Born in Scotland, Bell moved to Canada aged 23 and then to the US a year later. He filed the telephone patent in the US on March 7th, 1876, aged 29. Question 63. Which South American country has 2 capital cities, La Paz and Sucre? That would be Bolivia. Question 64. Which French artist is best known for colourful cut paper collages in his later career, including The Snail? Would that be Claude Monet, Henri Matisse or Paul Cézanne? It is Henri Matisse. In the 1940s and 50s, Matisse pioneered his vibrant cutouts, arranging painted paper shapes into bold collages. The Snail is among the most famous of these works. Question 65. Which small European country is the world's only Grand Duchy? Would that be Andorra, Luxembourg or Monaco? The correct answer is Luxembourg. Question 66. Which country of the UK features a dragon on its flag? That would be Wales. The Welsh flag, known as Idregoch, shows a red dragon on a green and white background. It has symbolised Wales for centuries and was officially recognised in 1959. Question 67. What is the only country in the world whose name ends with the letter Q? That is the country of Iraq. Question 68. Which Irish author created the character Leopold Bloom in the novel Ulysses? That was James Joyce. Question 69. In which country did the Boxer Rebellion take place at the turn of the 20th century? Was it in China, Korea, or Russia? The correct answer was China. The Boxer Rebellion was an anti-foreign, anti-colonial uprising in China, targeting foreign powers and missionaries. It was eventually suppressed by an international coalition. Question 70. Which composer wrote the Four Seasons, a set of violin concertos? Was that Bach, Mozart, or Vivaldi? It was Vivaldi. Question 71. Which scientist coined the term radioactivity in the late 19th century? It was coined by Marie Curie. Question 72. What year was the World Wide Web first made publicly available? Was it in 1991, 93, or 95? It was made publicly available in 1991. Created by Tim Berners-Lee, the World Wide Web opened to the public on the 6th of August 91. He also created the first public web page, a simple text document explaining how to use it. Question 73. Which Olympian sport features the Fosbury flop technique? It's featured in the high jump. Question 74. Which branch of science studies fossils and ancient life forms? Is that archaeology, geology, or paleontology? It is paleontology. Question 75. Which author created the line, "Winter is coming"? It was created by George R.R. Martin. The line comes from the book A Game of Thrones, the first novel in Martin's A Song of Ice and Fire series. It later became a defining phrase on the HBO TV series Game of Thrones. And that concludes today's quiz. I'll leave you with one final bonus question worth 2 bonus points on the screen. Remember to post your score in the comments below. If you enjoyed today's video, show some love, smash that like button, and why not try out these other quizzes here? Bye for now.